I'm doing some vacuum veneering today, and I thought I'd show you the arrangement I've got here. The bag you see in front of you, that's 10 by 5. It's folded up because I don't need it all at the moment, but 10 foot by 5 foot, I can get something really big in there, and it works quite well. Now, the advantage, of course, of a vacuum press, you can fold it away and stick it in a drawer after you've finished with it, because at home here, it's not like my workshop you may have seen in other videos. This is an old wooden shed, and it's very small, and it's about 12 foot by 12 foot, and I'm really cramped for space, but I can at least do some pressing here. Now that bag is made out of just really thick plastic. I think it's either a pond liner or a damp proof membrane, and that's not particularly expensive to buy, and they just fold it into a bag and seal the edges up with tape you can buy from any DIY shop. Now the black patches on there, that's repairs to the little punctures, but duct tape seems to work quite well on them. The sealing strip you see around the front just folded up out the way there. Normally you buy this from the manufacturers and it'll cost you a bit, but what I've used there is some 1.25 inch plastic waste pipe. I've cut a strip out of it, and a broom handle just shoves in and seals it, and that works quite well. As you can see, 2 of them spread right across that 5 foot bag. And the next piece that I've done is the valve that lets the air get sucked out. Now if you look at that, what that is, that's a tank connector, a compression fitting tank connector. 2 pieces of MDF cut round, one on the inside of the bag, one on the outside, and I've filled it all up with silicone, so when the nut on the back of the tank connector is tightened up, it presses that all together and makes a reasonably good seal. Well, it seems to be okay. Now this piece here, this is the nozzle off of a tube of cork. I think I've got one here, I'll just show you. Look, there you go, easy as that. Just cut it off at the end there, and the olive in the compression fitting, and it'll fit over there. Bit of PTFE tape and some more sealant, and just wind that in, and you can just push your rubber hose on there and it makes a nice seal. No need for any of these fancy connectors that clip on. That works fine. Now we'll work our way back from that tube that runs from the bag up to this board I've made for controlling the pressure. Now I'll put the camera down and I'll try and guide you through what I've done there. Just bear with me while okay, I hope you can see it all there. So I'll point out what's happening here. This is the black tube that comes from the bag. This is a T connector, and this goes up through this tube to this old vacuum gauge which I bought off eBay for about £6. Okay, that'll go up at the moment to about £20 before this switches off. So £20, I mean 20 inches of vacuum. Here, back to the T-piece. This then comes round here. There's another T-piece, T-connector there. This one goes off to the vacuum pump, and this comes down to this rather large syringe which I bought from the pharmacy. On the end of the syringe, the plunger, and that's connected down to this pin with a load of elastic bands. And just in here, this plastic box, is a micro switch, and the arm to the micro switch sticks out here just underneath the plunger. So the idea is, the more elastic bands on the plunger, the more suck you need to put it up, the better the vacuum. So with this amount of elastic bands, it's not very scientific, I know, that'll be pulled off the micro switch at about 20 inches of vacuum, and then it'll take about 45 seconds, I think, come back down to about here, hopefully, and just about now it will switch back on again. There you go. Brings the vacuum back up to there, and it keeps a nice constant vacuum in the bag, and you're not going to overheat the motor on the vacuum pump. And it's been working right for about 18 months now. Now all the wiring is all around the back here. So there you go. This socket here is where I plug the vacuum pump in. All the other bits of wiring go on at the back there, and this is again plugged into a socket elsewhere in the workshop. But the vacuum pump, I suppose, is the most important and most expensive part of this setup, and this is not a new one. You don't have to spend a great deal of money on these, not these days. You can buy second hand used ones, I think for about £35, maybe even, if you're lucky, less on eBay. But that's an old Edwards one that I've been using on this for some time now, and it will pull a full 28 inches of vacuum. There you go, and it's just, as I say, that's connected. Sitting on top of the lathe, there's that board, which is really simple to make. Just find the right pieces, keep looking on eBay or second-hand stores and see what you can buy, but it's quite reliable. That syringe is pennies, the gauge pennies again really. The whole thing I think I've made for under £100, and like I say, if I bought a new one, £600 or £700 for the basic entry model with a 4 foot by 4 foot bag. Now I've got a 10x5 bag, I've got a 4x4 bag in there at the moment. I've got a tabletop, which is that lyre end table up there that I'm re-veneering for someone. In here I've laid a load of cloth going across the top of the board I'm pressing, and there's some foam there as well, and that just lets the vacuum form and the air escape over a wider area and keeps it well, I suppose keeps it even. But what more can I say? It works, it's simple, take a bit of time, you can make it yourself, and you can be pressing the stuff, because I've found if you take it to a workshop where they've got a big platen press and it's heated, the amount they charge these days is extortionate. A few years back it didn't seem to be much, but now they're putting a really high charge on for the square footage of the board they put in the press, apart from the preparation time when they do the veneering. But like I say, this works fine. There's a little arrangement there. Those tubes are nothing special, they cost pennies per metre. There's the vacuum pump, it all stashes away nicely, and it's a really useful bit of kit. It saves time. Cheers.